I'll be really short. I just want to thank the Honorable Prime Minister and his cabinet for inviting me to this forum, this National Rebuilding and Economic Partnership Consultation, under the theme, Building the World's First Climate Resilient Country, Our Collective Responsibility. This venture is timely, and I commend the Honorable Prime Minister and his cabinet for taking this first step in what I believe is a bold and useful step forward. Living with the horror of Hurricane Maria, it is quite easy for one to ask the question, can any good come out of Maria? I firmly believe that if we are able to persevere to the end with this seminal idea, we would have to give some credit to Maria for the evolution of such a brilliant concept. Because of my discipline, I take a theological approach to this reality. It is well for me to inform you that this year, from June 11th to 16th, the Conference of Theology in the Caribbean today, which meets on a biennial basis, is scheduled to take place in Paramaribo, Suriname, under the theme Laudato Si, Caribbean Response. Now, Laudato Si on care for our common home is our Holy Father Francis' encyclical letter on the environment published in 2015. This encyclical letter is a masterpiece and is addressed to the world. So I strongly encourage everyone to have a read. You can download it from the internet. It seeks to raise the consciousness of all to the absolute need for us to preserve and care for the gift of the earth which God has given or has entrusted to us. As regards the theological conference, just a few days ago, I extended an invitation to the Honorable Prime Minister on behalf of the organizing committee to be the featured speaker in light of his visionary concept of working towards making Dominica the world's first climate resilient country. We're hopeful that from the outset, the discussions will ensure, or the discussion that will ensue on the regional level will provide greater leverage for the fomentation of the idea. I wish to say to the government that there are people who are poised to support the theme. Also invited to the conference is Bishop Bernardo Bolhim from the Diocese of Obed in Brazil, who is passionate about the rights of the indigenous people of South America. Just to let you know that only last month, as president of the Antilles Bishops' Conference, I represented the AEC at the papal visit in Peru. As part of that visit, the attending bishops accompanied the Holy Father to meet the natives of the Amazon, where he spoke on the issues pertaining to climate change and the responsibility we have towards our common home. The visit also served as a preparation for the Synod of Bishops for the Pan-Amazon region, which is to take place in Rome in October 2019. It will focus on the need of the indigenous people, on new paths to evangelization, and the crisis of the rainforest. I'm saying all this to indicate that people in other parts of the globe are having similar thoughts on the theme of climate change and our response to its consequences. It is my hope that as we move forward, we will see this venture as two-pronged. One, to develop the right consciousness towards God's gift of the world to us. By this I mean to grow in the awareness that we are God's stewards and the custodian of creation, called to perfect God's handiwork by our collective responsibility, or our collective responsible actions. Psalm 24 verse 1 reminds us, "To God belongs the earth and all that it contains, the world and all that live therein." Unquote. Secondly, to work diligently and conscientiously to respond to the present climatic conditions that would be, as much as possible, protective to human life. That includes adhering to the stipulated building codes established by the government of the day. Here I would like to underline the teaching of Pope John Paul II of revered memory, who maintained that the ecological question is a moral one. By this he means that our relationship with the world is not only utilitarian, but involves choices and decisions that do affect our neighbor negatively or positively. Neighbor here can mean the closest friend to the furthest country. No doubt, these two-pronged processes require a tremendous level of discipline on the part of everyone, from garbage disposal to conscientious reforestation, to proper gardening, to proper land use for residential building, etc. In short, it involves absolutely everything. Nothing is to be taken for granted. As already stated in the theme, building Dominica as the world's first climate-resilient country is indeed a collective responsibility. In light of this, therefore, I dare say it requires a conversion process. That is, to exorcise ourselves from old ways and habits and to adopt new and more wholesome ones that would, for the long term, benefit everyone. In that regard, I concur with the late John Paul II that the ecological question is a moral question. Building back stronger and better is a moral choice. Once again, I commend the Honorable Prime Minister and his cabinet for the initiative and to pledge the support of the Catholic Church in that venture. In the Declaration of Climate Change published by the Antilles Episcopal Conference in June of 2015, the bishops affirmed, and I quote, "We recognize that climate change represents a significant threat to the sustainability of Caribbean life as we know it. Therefore, we see our call to action in the following ways. 1, to engage in a process of education to all of our people on the cause and possible effects of climate change on our vulnerable communities. 2, to develop programs to educate people on reducing our energy and water consumption, and that allows us to care for our natural resources and sustainable lifestyle in general. And 3, collaboration with governments, corporations, and civil society to put climate change on the national agenda. This, therefore, is what we pledge to do as Church. Thank you.